know, that's the way it goes. And there's probably even a little bit more traffic because the train strike is still on. So lots of people are still coming into Paris with their private car. We'll see how it goes. So far, it's normal what we're doing, quite normal. Yeah, the city itself. Some of you are on the coach coming down from the airport with us, so you may have heard it before. The city itself is roughly the same size as London, okay? But going by population statistics, you would not think so, because the official population of Paris is 2.25 million, where the official population of London is in the neighborhood of 7.5, 8 million. That's a statistical fluke, because London over the last 150 years has expanded its political boundaries outward and taken in suburbs that used to be villages and farmland for troops to come into Paris. It never was part of a defense. And they're up to the right, all the way up to the roof using escalators. It's free. Great view of Paris, and just below the top floor, the roof, there's a marvelous cafeteria. You've got the map that was made by Galeries Lafayette. What Galeries Lafayette doesn't indicate on that map is its major competitor, Printemps in English. You can see the Golden Dome in front of us. It's no longer, we still refer to it as the Opera. It was built under the reign of Napoleon III. However, there are no longer any operas here. All the operas are now down in the area around the Bastille. And this is used solely for ballet theater now. But the building is still called the Opera.
Et en direct, on tourne à gauche, en haut là, ok? Oui, oui, oui. Hein?
You see this ramp on our left here? This ramp, there's a double ramp. The ramp was built by the orders of Napoleon III. And he had it built because he had an attack on his life at one point. And he always liked to go to the opera, but he didn't want to be exposed again to bombs and guns and whatnot. So he had a horse ramp built right to his box seat. And then looked at the opera and came down the other side of the ramp. Who was Napoleon I's nephew. He decided, out of respect for his dead nephew, to style himself as the third rather than the second. Okay, so the title Napoleon II never existed. Just like there was a Louis the 16th, but there was no Louis the 17th for the same reasons. Louis the 17th was a son of Louis the 16th, and he died in prison. And then finally, during the Restoration, the next king of France was styled himself Louis the 18th. Here we are, Avenue of the Opera, okay, right here, and all the way down at the end are just small offices. It's too expensive to live here. On the left, the colonnaded building is the most famous theater in all of France. It's a state theater called the Comédie Française. And if you are familiar with an actress called Isabelle Adjani, right through the central arch. This is the newest wing of the Louvre. It was built under Napoleon III's reign. And the statues in the niches are Napoleon I's generals. They claim to be the largest museum in the world in exhibition space, 60,000 square meters. Okay. Right, here we are in the central courtyard of the Louvre. I'm going to make a little pause here. We can't get out, that's why all those fences are up. The police had them put up long ago. And I'll show you, I'll explain a few things. We make a little stop here by this little Arc of Triumph called the Arc of Carousel. you look through the arch, you can look right up the Champs, up the Champs,
the Grand Galerie, the large gallery. And it's mainly for old Italian masters' paintings. Over on the right side, on the other side of the Seine, you can see a gold-ribbed dome building. That's a literary institute called the Académie Française. Look at the bridge. This is a footbridge. You see those shiny little things there? Those are the lovers' locks. You may have heard about them. See them? People come, couples come, and they stick a lock on there, and the tradition is to throw the key into the river, so you'll be tied together forever. It's not originally a Parisian thing. It was brought into Paris by visitors. But now the locks are getting so massive that the mayor is thinking of having them all cut off. They did it once and there was such a big stink about it that they didn't do it again. Now, some of those locks, they're locks on locks on locks. It looks like a big chain link. They're getting very heavy through there. The massive building on the other side, part of it looking at least like a castle, those are the law courts, or the Palais de Justice. And during the Revolution, that was the conciergerie. It's still referred to as a conciergerie. And everyone who was guillotined on the Place de la Concorde passed through the gateway between those two twin towers. Marie Antoinette was imprisoned there, for example. Robespierre spent a couple of days there, and thousands of others of France, facing this little square and the fountain. There you can see Notre Dame on the right, the twin towers, and Notre Dame spire as well. This is one of the oldest Gothic churches in existence. Its own town hall, but this is the city hall. And the square in front of the city hall is always given over to some sort of display. In the wintertime, around Christmas, New Year's, there's an ice skating rink. Then I can see now it's some sort of a floral display with trees. And it looks like a skateboarding. I can't tell what it is. We'll open up a shotgun shell. You'll see one part, or the old shotgun shells anyway, flattened out. This is the main flower market of Paris in front of us on our right. We're on the city island now, Ile de la Cité. And this is a hospital on our left called the Hotel Dieu. And the main police station, police headquarters of all of Paris here on the right. The building that has just been cleaned with flying all the French flags. Now, have a look. Okay, good. We hit a red light. That's what we want. There's Notre Dame, just off to the left. Right there. Yeah. The statues up about just over the arches are statues of the kings of Jerusalem. Now, during the revolutionaries thought they were kings of France, so they shot off all the heads. All the heads were shot off, and they've been replaced by a famous French architect called Viollet-le-Duc. The dome was having structural problems in the last couple of years, and that's why you see all the scaffolding. The inside at the Sanctified Church are the tombs of many of France's greats. Pierre and Marie Curie are buried in there. Voltaire is buried in there. And the original Foucault pendulum is in there, still functioning.
I don't know how long the scaffolding will be up there, but a year or two at least. Passer le Sénat. Pas le tour.
Down to detail.
It's weird now.
See, on the right, the word library is sort of misleading. That's not a library over there. The word librairie in French means bookstore. Okay? A library in French is called a bibliothèque.
Where did the sandstone come from for all the buildings?
Sorry?
The sandstone?
The sandstone for all of these came mostly from outside of Paris, west of Paris. However, there are also quarries in Paris, and they're now the catacombs. You'll see it embedded in the wall. The meter, you know, it was the French who started that. C'est pas ici, c'est là-bas. Là. Jusqu'à le premier mètre ici. There, on the wall, by the blue garbage cans.
Yes.
See it?
Oh, yeah.
The first meter. Yeah. And some more of the Luxembourg Gardens. They have their own museum with rotating exhibitions. And this one is on Josephine. None of the museums are open yet. It's a little bit too early. 9, 10 o'clock. Well, it's 9 o'clock now. The Louvre is open, but not this one. Arch. And we've got here an antique display. The building in front of us on the right with the wooden door, this is the top floor, is residence, one of the residences of a famous French movie actress called Catherine Deneuve. And there's the Church of Saint-Germain on the right. You can see the rounded arches rather than the peaked arches. It was a prison during the French Revolution. Now this part of France, part of Paris, was not touched by Baron Haussmann. And you can see the streets are much narrower. In fact, this is more or less the widest street in this area. It's the only street that can take a bus traffic. Off to the left and right can. This pale green shop here on the corner, France Bonaparte, is supposed to be the best place for macaroons. You know that? Yeah. Well, they are, everybody claims their place is the best place. That goes. Okay. It's the Czech Cultural Center on our left now. And coming up is the Fine Arts School of the university. The busts of two famous artists of the 18th century. Puget, who was a sculptor, and Poussin was a painter. And lots of art galleries left and right. You'll see. Side of the river. You can see the whole thing. It's 1/3 of a mile long, each wing. And we just came through those arches on the right. Right there, the hotel. The blue awning, see the blue awning? Oscar Wilde died in that hotel. Right here. There's a brass plaque there that says it. The next interesting place is right here. This restaurant Voltaire. You can read the brass plaque over the head there. Voltaire was born in Paris and died in that building. Quai d'Orsay. And again, if you can get a ticket from the concierge, he still has tickets, you'll save yourself some trouble and time by getting the ticket. If he doesn't have tickets, because sometimes they run out, you can get a ticket at the newspaper kiosk just by the front of the entrance. I'll show you. You can just barely, you can see it. There may be people standing in line already. So it's open late on Thursdays. Today's Thursdays. This was a former railway station. It was a railway station that all the concentration camp survivors came back to. There's a big line. Now, if you have a ticket, you go to entrance C around the back by those statues. See that little kiosk now to the left, down there? They have, he has tickets. Yeah. But nobody seems to know that. Although there's a big sign saying tickets.
I don't believe it.
No, they don't go down. They just come right to the entrance. And they don't even look at the Grecian, Roman-looking building. And this is the seat of the French government. Okay? This is the, if you like, the House of Commons, called the National Assembly in French. Police there. Don't know why they're there. There must be a demonstration coming up. Probably something to do with the train strike, because this is the seat of the government here. Yeah, well, what can you do?
There's my one everywhere.
Now look, you can see in the distance to the right, you can see the dome of Sacré-Cœur. That's where we will be tonight, in fact. The obelisk was a gift to France from the ruler of Egypt in 1840. It's 2,500-year-old obelisk from Luxor. We're at Concord Square now, and the statues on pedestals all around the square are allegorical representations of the cities of France, Marseille, Lyon, Rouen, etc. The fountains on either side, there's the Champs-Élysées on the left. The fountains on either side of the obelisk are, again, allegorical representations of the seas and the rivers around France. And the two twin buildings in front of us, one saying Swatch. Swatch is paying for some of the restoration. The one on the right belongs to the Ministry of the Navy. And the one on the left is a luxury hotel called the Hotel Crillon. Look up the street in front of us. See the red awning furled up? That's Maxime's restaurant. Yeah. And that's the Madeleine Church, the Grecian-like looking building. Now the pedestaled statue in front of us, directly in front of us, is where the guillotine was set up during the French Revolution.
Gems.
Yeah, that as well.
To the right.
Yes.
Cannot wear a cross unless they wear it under their shirt. Jewish kids cannot wear, the men, any of the boys, yarmulke, you know, the little kepi. And Muslims may not, Muslim girls may not wear the head shawl. Those are considered religious symbols. And the French attitude is we want equality in the schools, so that has to go. And if the parents don't conform, the child is expelled and told to go to a religious school. You know, there are lots of little religious schools around. Place all the glass on that roof on the right. And there is a special exhibition now in the little palace. It's called Paris 1900. You know, La Belle Époque. But that's that you have to pay to get into. It's usually the right hand of the building is the special exhibition, and the permanent museum on the left hand. There's Napoleon's tomb, and there's Winston Churchill just there on the left, on the under the branches of the tree. Got his hands in his pocket. Normally he would have a cigar, but or a glass of brandy.
Where's the tomb, Bernard?
Where's
The
Napoleon's
tomb,
tomb?
Napoleon's
Straight
tomb.
ahead.
Napoleon's tomb directly in front of us, the Gold Dome.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry.
The whole building.
Yes.
Arms. The bridge we're crossing is the most ornate bridge in France. And this is the Alexander III Bridge, named after the Russian Tsar in 1900. This was when the Great Exhibition, the World Exhibition, was held here in 1900. À gauche, an ugly building of glass and concrete, built about 25 years ago. So at the same time, some military headquarters now here, and a museum. With a moat around it, now just decorative, but it was a moat with a purpose before. This part of Paris is full of government offices and therefore also a lot of embassies. Polish embassies off down that little street to the right, to the left. And we're coming up to the Rodin Museum now. The Rodin Museum, the entrance to it is in a castle-like looking building. It isn't really a castle, it was built to look like that in the 19th century by a rich merchant. We're now part of the Rodin Museum. Just here on the left, after the stoplight. Now look beyond the building, over the fence, and you'll see conical shaped pine cone trees. And in between two of them is a statue of Rodin's thinker. You have to look closely. Just on the left here, you see he's got his back to us. Just to the left now. See the statue? Right there. The guides call him the stinker. Because he looks like he's sitting on the potty. And this is the hospital wing of Les Invalides, right here on the right. Right now there are soldiers in there from wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Africa. The French are always involved in some sort of little scrape in Africa. This is where Dreyfus was cashiered out of the service, falsely so, but it took many years to rectify that. Now, if you look closely at that building to our left, you'll see here and there pock marks. This is damage, like here on the left now. Yep. Small arms fire from World War II. See the holes?
Yep.
Yeah. Fait l'arrêt ici des ronds-points. All right, now look to the right, and you'll see the Eiffel Tower. We're going to stop, but not here, because this new modern monument of peace blocks the whole view. So we'll stop on the other side of it. You still get the whole of the Eiffel Tower in your viewfinder when we make a stop. Yeah, look, you can see here and there more pock marks. Some of them have been filled in with cement to keep the walls from chipping. Quelle heure est-il? 10 heures?
One of the few things.
All right, another photo stop with an unobstructed view of the Eiffel Tower.
Au milieu de la rond-point.